It's right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Fix that a little bit. I've done some upgrading of my closet. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa, guys. Oh, there you can see the fat of my chin. There we go. Sorry, everybody. I thought that was working better. All right. Well, welcome back to the Work in Progress Gaming Show. It's a show now, guys. We're a show. I promise it's a show. So much light. This way you can see my beautiful faces. Not really. Well, welcome back, guys. Looks like we've got some new 40K stuff going on this week. So I will say, not to be a negative Nancy, I cannot believe that we are basically seeing Deathmire not happen. Deathmire didn't happen, right? Now Deathmire was a draw. It was a draw. I can't believe it. It was just as shocking to me. It wasn't that shocking. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't too surprised, but yeah, they decided that Deathmire is now going to be a draw, and that nothing happened, which to me is probably one of the most disappointing things that they did. Was basically have Deathmire just not be a thing. Like that was extremely disappointing. A real bad way of starting off 11th edition, in my opinion. Like with 53.7% of battles. Like, come on, right? Come on. At this point, there's not very many people who are looking at GW and going, you cooked the numbers. You cooked the numbers, my guy. Like, there's no way. Well, Deathmire didn't matter. In unrelated news, I'm currently priming some yeah, exactly. Like, this was maybe the way of like getting some people back into it, where it's like, now, of course, you don't want to play. Of course, you don't want to play the new Deathmire stuff or the 11th edition stuff, because why would you? Right? Like, if you're telling us, hey, your what you guys do is gonna matter, right? And they basically just said like nothing mattered. Like, it just isn't a very fun way to do things. Sending out everybody letting me know I'm live. This way we have more viewers. Anyways, how has y'all's week been so far? Is everybody having a good week? Getting everything ready? I have a tournament coming up tomorrow. It's just a little RTT, so I'm gonna take a nasty list. It's the list that you played against. I'm gonna practice it tomorrow. Oh no, not tomorrow. Today is Thursday. No, today is Friday. Yes, tomorrow. Okay, I don't know what day it is. On the 18th, I'm playing in an RTT. So it should be fun. Something to get a little practice for the Lone Star Open in beginning of August. Looks like we got some. I'm glad that they did the new detachments for everybody, right? That they just basically said like, hey, everybody's getting the new detachment. You're not having Space Marines win everything. But yeah, I'm pretty disappointed by the fact that they ended it in a draw, which just means that nothing happened. Well, to mark their victory in the Hive Hard Battle Zone, okay. Like, again, I'm gonna be real, they should have given it to the orcs. Like, they should have given it to the orcs and been like, the orcs won, Armageddon fell. Because guess what? That's a good start to 11th edition. We've got a problem now. We've got something we've got to focus on and work on. Is 11th edition now is about Armageddon? I mean, like, what's better? How you could have chaos show up, right? Oh my god, we've been dealing with the orcs and we failed. And then chaos showed up and is fighting the orcs now. So now we got to fight on two fronts, but it's not super horrible because now at least the orcs aren't as bad as they were. But I do love the boys models that they've brought out. This machine gun is really cool, and the flamethrower is super sick. I do think it's interesting how they've set up the boys going into this edition, because a lot of it is, and then we'll talk about some of the rumors that have been going on about Space Marines and potentially T5, which, God, this dude, this little grot with the ammo is awesome. I still really enjoy this little guy. What's his name from Tabletop Tactics was um talking about him, Chaos Lord Beard. I really enjoyed that. I love this orky prosthetic. I think that orc prosthetic is super cool. I think that's what I want to see more of. Is I want to see more prosthetics, right? More prosthetics for the orcs. Um, yeah. So like, it's just one of those things where you're like, okay, did you just do that because Space Marines were winning everything? Who knows? Who knows? Oh, I also said that this was probably going to be a painting stream. That is going to be delayed because I am still figuring up camera setups for painting that doesn't look honestly garbage. This is a lot easier for right now, but until I get those camera setups, it's just this is the way it's going to be for now. But what we can do is we can go over the new detachments, right? This is the one for the Space Marine ones. So we've got the basic rule is that infantry, after they've made an ingress or charge move, that's really nice, actually. Ingress or a charge move, getting the bonus. That's cool. The attacks can reroll hits of 1. Sick. I love being able to reroll hits of 1. If only it was a less reroll They didn't say that there's going to be less rerolls this edition. They did the smart thing and they didn't do that because there's going to be rerolls. And then the mob and commandos, those units get scout 6. Okay, kind of cool. Neat. May yet to have a final victor. What? Just because the campaign is over doesn't mean the worms. Yeah, we knew that. We knew that. Yeah. I am worried about power creep as well. I know that people were talking about there's a rumor about going up to 3 wounds for Space Marines. I'm going to be completely real. I have a hard time believing that. I have a very hard time believing that. And even though we've had some things in the past where it's like even T whatever Plague Marines was something that we were worried about. This does kind of follow that, and that concerns me because that was true. But it's just, this is where, in all honesty, this is what I'm talking about. If any GW employee ends up seeing this video, this is what I've been talking about, right? This is what I have been talking about why it's so important that y'all should have been putting your foot on the gas with 11th edition, to the point where this should not have been the outcome of this campaign, and it should have been a lot more hands-on. Because like, now we potentially, yeah, it would have to be done in addition, which would basically be a hard reset. But now we have this fear of the power creep. We don't know what's going on. It's Friday. They haven't said anything about what's going on next after this campaign. They just dropped it and said nothing else is happening, right? We're going to have the FAQ on the 22nd, which is on like a Tuesday. When is it? It's like a Wednesday or a Tuesday. When is the 22nd? Come on, calendar. Yeah, it's next Wednesday. So we won't get any more news potentially until next Wednesday, maybe next Monday. So this is what I mean about like pushing the metal on the gas. If you guys were giving us news, we wouldn't have these rumors be news. Like they would just be rumors. So I think the thing that sucks about that is we don't want people to get nervous about 11th edition, but also it's hard when it's kind of hard when you're sitting there and going, well, I don't have anything going on, but it's the start of a new edition. So we're just waiting. Kind of sucks. But let's move on from the negative Nancy stuff because I've said my piece. I've said my piece now. Let's talk about these vengeful hosts. Look at them. They're vengeful. The veterans of Armageddon's wars. Okay, so my question with this, just from a lore perspective, this isn't a negative thing, I promise. So if they're a veteran of Armageddon's wars, right, does that mean that they were a veteran before this one, right? Talking about the Vanguard veterans? Or are we talking about, oh, now that the Operator Imperator campaign is done, technically all of your jump pack guys are veterans if you put jump pack guys in there? I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be kind of fun. It was like this is almost a promotion for all of your Space Marine armies, is where it's like all of you have become Armageddon veterans because you did fight on Armageddon at least once. And that's all you have to do is fight at least once and not die. So that's a little fun thing for me. But I'm gonna be real. I just made that Space Wolf jump pack guy, and it might be time for me to make some Sky Claws that aren't officially Sky Claws and are Vanguard veterans, but we'll call them Sky Claws because GW didn't give us any, and that's fine. But anytime you make an ingress or charge move, that unit can reroll hits of 1. Like, I love that they're doing ingress and a charge move. I think that's a really, really fun way of playing deep strike rules, where it's like, well, once you charge, you also get a bonus. You're like, okay, cool. So not only is dropping them in, let's say if they're a shooting thing, that's fun. Yeah. No, I think the only thing that has any worthwhile shooting in Space Marine jump packs is like the more Gravis style guys. Because I know that there's like the Inceptors or something like that they're called, where it's basically like a heavier Marine shooting. And I think that would be part of it. I am glad that they did fly infantry and they made it very clear that it's not any Adeptus Astartes fly models, because that would be kind of nuts on units that were already getting +1 to hit. Like, I think the Storm Raven gets +1 to hit on things that aren't. Yeah. Those guys will mess you up. One of my good buddies who plays Death Watch likes to bring those guys in their version of their kill team. And every time I see them show up on the battlefield, I'm like, all right, that has to die. That has to die now. That has to die now. So I'm excited. I think this will be really fun for some of those units. So I like that it's both, right? To where if you are bringing them in, you don't lose the reroll hits of 1. You get the fun stuff. Before we move on to the enhancements, because I'm so loving that. That's really cool. Let's talk about the stratagem. So this is an interesting one. Meteor, I can't talk. No, onslaught. Meteor onslaught. Thank you. Their jump jets blazing. I don't know why I'm an orc now. These Space Marine shock troops slam into their foes with bone-breaking force. Man, I remember that from Dawn of War. That was so much fun for them to do. After you've made a charge move, you get +1 strength. Cool. They're the prime example about how a bunch of Space Marine units are criminally underpriced in points. Yeah. Space Marines are in a really, really weird place, in all honesty. They're in a really weird place to where, like intercessors, right, like, are probably point correct, right? 80 points is good. Like, my tormentors are pointed the exact same way, and it feels good. They can sticky stuff. they could shoot pretty decently, right? My tormentors having special weapons, they getting a bunch of extra like guns. But then it comes to when they leave that portion of the army where it's not the basic infantry guys, where it's like a jump pack unit being like 100 points or something like that for 12 movement and all that stuff is a lot. It is interesting, and I'm very curious on how, if the rumors of T5 Space Marines 3 wounds, right, coming out is, I wonder which things they're going to select or if those things are going to go up in points. I'm so curious about that. I think it's going to be really intriguing, especially when we see that a lot of these units that they're not upgrading on the data sheet, they're upgrading through detachments, right? Where now fly infantry has a lot of bonuses. Like there's two different detachments now where you get a bunch of bonuses off fly infantry, kind of similarly to how Chaos is getting stuff for like Night Lord specific, but it's all jump pack stuff. So I'm really intrigued on how they're going to look at the data sheet specifically, right? And see if they're going to look at pricing them specifically because of the data sheet, or if they're going to be looking at like, well, are we going to also price them based off this one DP detachment too? It's really interesting. I'm very intrigued on that. If Space Marines go to 3 wounds, they need to rebalance weapons like plasma. Yeah, exactly. Like they would have to rebalance, like damage 3 weapons, which are already really common, would become way more common. I really don't think Marines are going to 3 wounds. Maybe some elite units like Blade Guard might go to 3 wounds. And I think they already have that. Like I would it's one of those things where like I'll find the thing because Valrak posted it recently and it was just like copy from a Discord server. I'm just like, if so here's the thing. If things go up to T5, right? And the Space Marine Codex comes out, and it's the first codex that comes out, and T5 and it's strength whatever and 3 wounds, they're going to have to, yeah, I don't blame you. But what's real is that they're going to have to then update all the rest of the books. It's just gonna have to be that way, or even in the community, I do not see them. I really don't see them doing this early on without making a major update for all power armor, right? Personally, I kind of wish that unless it was something specific like maybe Death Guard, right, that has special more armor because they're coated with miasma, that like we go back to the days of power armor is power armor, and it doesn't matter if you're a space wolf, a blood angel, or you know the randomest subchapter of some dude out in the middle of Wisconsin's I dream idea of a subchapter, right? If they wanted to push it through, they could update everyone with an FAQ. I completely agree with that. Like, and then that way you could just make, hey, power armor, unless you're super special, like Custodes, Death Guard, like where it's like, hey, you're gonna be tough. We're making you tough. It's very specific. Like, there's no reason to set all of these armor types as this. Like, there's no reason not to do that, right? Like, there's not a real big difference between an Emperor's Children Ceramine armor and an Ultramarine Ceramine armor. Like, besides just what they've done to it on the outside and design, right? There's not too much different. When we talk about them in the books, they're really not that much different when it comes to that. So to me, I think that we could go back to the old days of like, hey, if you're in Ceramite, don't worry, you're all going to be T5 or you're all going to be T4, right? Or like all power armor that is not Space Marine power armor is now T4, right? Sisters. That's like the only one I can think of. Sisters, Inquisitors, like things. Everybody else has like it's all. Everybody has to go up 1 point in toughness if this is the case. They just all have to go up, right? And like if you're gonna do that with one book, I don't see a problem with just doing a very easy. Everything jumps up 1 toughness. Elves going to T4, right? And like I could see that being fun. But off that rant right now, going back to Vengeful Hosts, right? The +1 strength is going to be really fun, especially when the fact that like Power Armor gets a 3-up save, right? And like if they're not going to change anything with the save, You could change the toughness. But +1 strength, kind of cool, useful at times, depending on when you really need it. That's why sisters are T3. But like that's what I mean, is like elves would go up to T4, other stuff, like you know what I mean. Um, let's get through this first before we get back into the T5 stuff, because that's going to be an hour-long discussion on its own. So purged by sectors, right? An unengaged fly infantry that was eligible to fight this phase. So once you've like killed a unit entirely, maybe you've jump packed intercessor, mortal wound bombed it or something, you can make a normal move up to D3+3. That's really nice. I like this one a lot. That's super cool. I mean, the fact that you can do that extra potentially 6 inches of movement to get onto an objective, I mean, that just makes them like even more fast than they already were. As somebody who got something similar with Flawless Blades, no notes. Love it. I really enjoyed this stratagem, and I would probably bring this a lot of the times. No fear. So funny enough, no fear was actually an old Space Marine Army rule as well. That was the old rule, and it was exactly kind of similar to this, where you couldn't really get battle shocked. One friendly battle shocked Adeptus Astartes unit, you can target that unit with this stratagem, even though it is battle shocked. Your unit is no longer battle shocked. That's really strong in this edition. Like that's really strong, because also it's not just fly; it's any Adeptus Astartes unit whatsoever. Tanks, aircraft, Primarchs. Like you could add this on to any current detachment, and that is worth bringing. Like that 1 CP of saying like, hey, I failed the battle shock. I don't have to insane bravery beforehand. I can just 1 CP if I fail, fix it. Right? It's a 1 CP fix. Big fan. Oh yeah. Well, because it's even better than insane bravery. Because insane bravery, you have to do it before you take the test, right? So you have to guarantee you just guarantee it, right? Oh, it's insane. Like I'm gonna be real. There's a huge part of me that's probably gonna put this in my Space Wolf list, just specifically because of that. Saying like, okay, I can unbattle shock something that needs to be unbattle shock. That's really strong. I really like that. I think that's going to be I think the interesting thing is that I think that these previewed attachments that we're getting through Deathmire and all this stuff, what's really cool is I can see where they're looking at this and going, these might be the templates for the rest of what could come to other armies throughout the edition, because there are things like this, second insane bravery, but better, right? In this one, potentially getting an absolute weapon out of something as an enhancement. That's super cool. And I think we're going to start to see these kind of additions throughout other codexes to fill them in with tools that they don't have, which I really like. And before we get into the Orc one, because the Orc one is exciting for me, the Orc one is the one that tells me that there's something going on in that way. Let's talk about these because I want to talk about Orcsbane soon. All right, let's get rid of Avenging Angel. It's cool. Avenging Angel, fly infantry. When this unit ends an ingress move, so when it comes in from an ingress, select one enemy unit within 9 inches. They make a battle shock with a -1 to that battle shock roll. Super sick. Very good. Cool. -1 battle shock can be extremely useful, especially because you can just drop them down within 8 and then hit them within 9, right? So you can drop them down and be like, nah, gone, Of course, there's plenty of stuff in which like you can just succeed in the battle shock roll. Like it's not the craziest thing in the world. It's going to depend on the points for this. But if it's like a cheap, like 15 to 20, oh, that's awesome. That's killer right there if it's 15 to 20. If it's like 30, eh. But I like Orcsbane. I think this is super cool. The model gets cleave too, which is super cool, giving Space Marines some cleave that they don't have right now. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 8, -2 AP, 3 damage. So 1 less AP than Fulgrim, or not Fulgrim, Lucius, and 2 less attacks. Just kidding. But no, that's super cool. I love this idea of adding a named weapon and being like, this is a relic weapon, right? Especially if we're not going to have Crusade rules get updated potentially in the new edition. This is a really cool way of adding back in those really, really flavorful Crusade rules, but instead of being able to add them into like standard games as well. And I like that. I think that's the really cool part about this is getting a relic weapon that would normally be in Crusade rules, but is now in standard. Good job, everybody. We're finding a fun way to do that. I really like that. I think that's super fun. It's very flavorful. It's not the greatest weapon in the world. Like if it was -3, I'd be like, all right, cool. We're getting really crazy there. Yeah. Oh, does the narrative deck have relics? Oh, that's cool. I wonder if they'll release like new decks and stuff like that for specific themes. Like hopefully they'll do like a crusade deck for each army at some point. Probably not though. Wishful thinking. But I do like the fact that they are adding like relics into detachments as well because that is super fun. Relics are cool. Who doesn't like relics? I implore you to find me that person that doesn't want to get a super special named weapon. I don't believe you if you tell me that's the case. So that's the new Vengeful Hosts one. That's going to be the new Space Marine one. I'm liking it. I think it's going to be really cool and something flavorful to play. I really like the what is it called? No fear enhancement or detach or whatever it's called, stratagem. I think that's really cool. But what I'm really interested in is the orc one. Not because I'm getting into orcs, but specifically some of these rules are really interesting. So this is something that's really cool. So, okay. So jungle, no what's right. Let's do it in orc voice. Yeah. They were in such a need of a new detachment. Of course, Space Marines need everything, right? We've all seen the gif of Peter Griffin and his birthday cake that he gets, right? It's their consolidation cake. So, giving Mob and Commandos Scout 6. Cool. You get to start a little further. Neat. They also get a D3 +3 move, which is funny. They're like, huh, maybe we give it to the Orcs, maybe we give it to the Space Marines. Who knows? Right. A fight on death on a 3-up. Yeah, that's okay. But this is the one where I'm really excited about the stratagems because I think this is an indicator that things that are Commando Scout 6, yeah, it's gonna be scary. Um, I think this is where we're going to start to see things that normally aren't in other armies that commonly start going into other armies. So concealed crumping, I just love the theme of that, right? Concealed crumping, right? They're hidden. So if it's the first time that they get to shoot or fight, right? Or if they're just hidden, which just means just don't ever shoot them, and they'll always have this, right? Your unit's attacks have lethals. That's pretty nice. Lethals for orcs that already hit on 6s. Cool for shooting, but I mean in fighting, cool to have that. Um, there's also the detection one, but I'm really intrigued about stragglers, right? In the command phase, one mob or commando unit gets to heal D3 wounds. There is no caveat. It's a 1 CP 2D3 heal. Plus their already pain boy heal that they can do. And so you can, it's a heal. This is just Necrons. Like this is not in their books. This is not normal for orcs. I don't remember orcs having a bunch of things about healing. That's why you bring the big 20 boy squads always. So that is a potential of healing like 6 boys because they're only 1 wound apiece. So my question is every single codex going to get a healing stratagem? Because orcs getting healing is wild. Like it makes sense they have a pain boy, but even the pain boy doesn't do much healing on the data sheet. So to me, like it's a feel no pain, and I think you can spend the grot. I think that the grot also spends because the pain boy is a feel no pain. But I think you can spend the grot maybe. Let me check because that is for sure in the Armageddon rules. I was like, they should have the Armageddon data sheets on here. Um, Trying to look and see if I can find it on Warhammer. Stuwapedia. Pain boy. Don't tell GW. I'm not buying the Orc Codex right now. There's no reason for me to buy the Orc Codex. Yeah, so they have a feel no pain base, and then they can do the D6 mortal wounds against a unit like a monster or another guy. But they have this ability, the Grot Orderly, that allows them to bring D3 destroyed bodyguard models back. So it's not wounds, it's just full on models. But I mean, depending on what you've attached them to, right? If it's just boys, then they're all going to be pretty much one wound apiece, unless you can bring back the boss knob, which has been a really nice way of waiting on that one. But like, that is crazy that they're 80 for that many. Wild. But that's what I mean specifically, where it's the fact that like you can bring back a ton of models rules, and that's not normal for orcs. So I think the thing that's really exciting about this is, one, you see that they are getting new rules, they get new abilities. They're not just going to take stuff away from orcs or just give them lethals or that. Like, we're starting to see them go like, hey, even your guys who are mostly known for crumping doing your melee, as the orcs were only known for that last edition. Now you can heal, you can potentially shoot and like mark other units for your units. You can gain lethal hits not only in fighting, but also in shooting if you didn't have them against a certain target. Like, there's some interesting stuff here. And I recommend going and at some point going and checking out Tabletop Tactics' new video about the Orc Codex, because they brought up a really interesting thing with the whole new WA, right? Because the WA has changed for the new Codex whenever that comes out. Is that there's now the riled up keyword, right? Where it's like when you're riled up, you get these abilities. And they were even wondering if that means that there's other ways to then rile your boys up in the middle of a game when you're not doing a wall, where like you still have your big, strong, powerful wall, but you're not losing abilities because you didn't call the wall that turn, and it's less gamified and more narratively that orcs are this way, which I do enjoy. If they're trying to make the things more narrative in a way where they're like, well, we're going to make things like where you all have a basic toolkit. Everybody gets a heal ability. Everybody gets a way of doing something like that. Maybe it's like something, where they have their, objective secured is all the same now, right? But then they're giving us toolkits like stragglers. Maybe that's going to be something that comes to Space Marines in the new Codex too, where they're going to get to heal stuff. Maybe even Gene Stealers might get something similar, where they might get an Oath of Moment rerolls or -1 AP, right? And I love this idea of not like making the flavor more a part of the army and the data sheet, and then allowing your stratagems to be like basic command things rather than those be super flavorful, right? Where it's like getting lethal hits, healing a unit, right? +1 strength, where there is a lot more of like, well, I'm bringing the detachment because I like the way that this plays. So it is very good for reduces faction identity and can model everything. Well, that's what I mean, is that the detachments would stop being the ones bringing the flavor as much, and more of the actual like data sheet / army abilities of the specific armies, right? So like the riled up thing for orcs being something where it's like, how Drukhari have pain tokens, where they can spend pay tokens and empower themselves, but orcs have riled up abilities where it's like on their data sheet, they might have something where during the wall, they get more abilities activated on their data sheet. So that's the thing. Objective secured is not going to be the same. The new Harlequin detachment triggers in the movement phase. I mean, that's fine. I mean, when it triggers doesn't really change what the ability does, right? Like, okay, it changes it in the movement phase versus the command phase. Okay. But then what if that's where it's all changing to where we haven't seen what it's going to be besides just on a data sheet? And if that's the first one that is like going to be like that or something, maybe it's like that, right? Like, because that's the thing is like they're gonna do it as probably as close as possible, but obviously it's GW, right? I mean, they made promises for 10th edition that 10th edition wasn't going to be the reroll detachment or the reroll edition, and then it was potentially the entire reroll detachment, right? This is just me kind of going over and theorizing over some of this stuff because again, I don't work for GW. I have no idea what they're thinking or what they're wanting to do. But I love the idea of having other armies. Like, could you imagine if your Harlequins had a healing, right? Like that would be killer, you know? If they're gonna make fight on deaths universal, why not add some healing universally? You know? I think the problem is that like right now, if we're talking about unit and faction identity, I really don't think that like many of the codexes have a problem with that where it's like only codexes where it's like the super codexes like Guard, Space Marine, Chaos Space Marines, right? Eldar, right? Where they have even Eldar, I would say, is probably the best. Hello, let me tap it to see what they want to do. Yep, the hey, you know the Rogaldorn is getting another nerf because it's my stream and I want him to always get a nerf. No, I'm just kidding. But no, like I think that like faction identity in the rules was such a very weird way of doing certain things, right? Where it was like, well, you played a detachment, and if that detachment was the flavor, then let's hope that it was good. Because if you were playing the Imperial Fist detachment, you were like, well, okay, I guess I just stay in a bunker and this is back in 10th, not 11th, but let me stay in a bunker and not move and play in a game where the game is the movement game, right? Like that's a really sucky thing to make your like whole like even whenever I was playing against Dark Angels a lot of the problems Dark Angels had where they're like, I don't want to play Gladius. I want to play the Dark Angels detachment and feel like I'm playing Dark Angels. And the problem was is they were like, yeah, but it's just not as good. The rules aren't as good, right? It's like I tried playing other stuff besides Coterie, but you're like, it's just the rules are so good for this. And I think that's something they need to be better on. Let me see what they're saying. True, everybody getting an attachment with a heal ability would be great. After fighting Necrons forever, it's a powerful ability. Yeah, like maybe not everything needs to go into every codex, right? Like maybe having the detection as guards whole thing. So like theirs is always a 6-inch detection range. But yeah, like Necrons has been a weird army rule to the point where like even when they talked about it right with the start of the edition where they're like where we're still waiting on that Tacoma document to fully confirm what their intentions were with this heal rule. Like the whole potential of, oh, I can heal characters back was one where everyone looked at the Necron player and went, no, there's no way. There's no way they're going to let you do that because we've been playing against Necrons for the entire edition. Sometimes it whiffs, but when it doesn't whiff, the game is over, right? It's kind of similar to like when an Emperor's Children gets good advances every single time, right? And it's like you're going to do well. You're gonna probably do well if your army roll is going off pretty good. So like I think that's something that can go into other codexes and be fine. But I understand what you're saying. I just do think that like I think that like a lot of it came from like oh, well, we're trying to make the rules narrative and the rules need to reflect how cool a model is. When the problem with that was, well, if you do that, then yeah, it's going to be power creep because then the coolest model is going to be the best model for a month because they don't release stuff fast enough for the way that they do power creep, unfortunately. Jordan is up like 60 points since I started, and I thought it was a lot of points then. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I mean, the Defiler also went up 40 points. And if you're playing it the way that EC needs to play it, I mean, it went up an extra 20, or no, 30 after that. So it went up like 70 points for the last cannons. So it's like, it makes sense for these things to be big and strong. And like, I'm fine with Rogel Dorns being tough if they're going to be 300 points. Like, it makes sense. Like, it's one of those things where, like, the Rogel Dorn, where it was at the beginning of the edition, was rough, rough. Like, I remember reading the guard, because I've had the guard codex since guard came out this edition, and like, I made a list with 4 Rogodorns and sent, or not four, I'm sorry, 6 Rogodorns, and sent it out to people to go play it. And I'm 95% sure one of those people went undefeated in a tournament. Like, I sent that list out like the day after I read the codex, because I was like, oh my God, you can bring 3 Rogodorns and 3 Rogodorn commanders. And like, with the Hammer of the Emperor, you just fill in the rest with other tanks and you're good. So like, I understand where it's at, because it's like, not only that, but you can bring 2 versions of it. That's a lot crazy, where they didn't think about that when they brought it out, and you can tell that they didn't think about that. I think it's been a really interesting 10th edition has been really interesting, because I think we as a community have grown in understanding GW and game design and game theory as we've all been playing, listening to some of these like top players who are getting better and better and better at understanding like what makes good game design, what makes things fun. Because to me, like, the biggest thing that I want out of these armies and these games is, like, I don't want EC to be broken. That sucks. Like, nobody wants to play an army. Like, I have Chaos Knights. I love my Chaos Knights. I think they're super cool. I think that I love like painting them and making the cool designs on the armor, but they're not one that I like really bring out, because especially when you play a casual game, like, the stat check of it is kind of frustrating, right? Knights are a weird army, to where like their base toughness is 9, right? Even their little battle line guys are 9, and that's when they brought a toughness down from T10, you know. And like, I don't bring them out because at a certain point in time when their codex came out, they were busted. They were busted. You bring 6 big knights, you can't tell me they're not busted when they get 2 extra wounds for 1 minus toughness. They're busted. They were a lot. They were crazy, right? Um, and like, nobody wants their army to be busted, right? Like, a 46 to 48% win rate is a good spot for an army. 50% is like almost perfect, right? And I think that's the whole thing, is I want these stratagems to be around the armies, so that some of these armies where it's like guard, where they get nerfed on their infantry to the point where it's now a D tier army, specifically because of the fact that you don't have all the options to play. Yeah, because of Trauma's flashbacks fighting 14 armigers and a Ministorm priest. Yeah, exactly. Like, 14 armigers is bullcrap. Like, the fact that you can bring that many is bullcrap. If you're better than your opponent, you're going to win. If you're equal skill, you'll probably go 50-50. And if you're worse, you'll lose. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, that is exactly like where the whole thing is, where it's like, that's how it should be. If you and I are going at it and our armies are balanced, it should come down to who made the best moves and whose dice rolls were better, right? Like, I've had games where I've played against Emma and I'm just like, you should have killed that. You should have killed that, right? That should have been dead. You had bad rules. Or not, sorry, bad rules. You had bad rolls, not rules. Um, and like, that is a massive thing that I feel like the community kind of forgets about sometimes, is that this game if you are winning every single one of your games, right? It's understandable for a tournament if you are like going balls to the wall, but if it's been a month and you're playing casual games and you're winning every single one of your games, I'm gonna tell you, there's either you're playing something wrong, your opponent is playing something wrong, or your army needs a balance change, because nobody should be winning 100% of their games with one army every single point in time. It's just not something, unless they are like the god of Warhammer and could like Scary is a player that you could play against him with any army and get your butt whooped because he's been playing Drukhari since third edition, you know, to the point where he knows exactly how to play it in any single matchup, right? And that's why he's that good at the game, right? But it's also the same thing. If you gave him Eldar, he also could probably do that with Eldar. He probably could do that with Space Marines. Like, it's not something where just because he's the Drukhari guy because he loves Drukhari, but he's not the Drukhari guy because Drukhari are good. He's the Drukhari guy because he's such a good player and he knows the game, right? Like, I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near to his level, but I do know that when I've played other armies, I'm like, okay, I understand that there are certain things you have to change in your brain, but the game is played the exact same way pretty much. I need to find it. I'll find the title of this for next Monday's stream, and I'll share it because there is a article that somebody wrote about game theory on 40K, and I recommend anybody who loves this game, right, who wants to get a little bit better in their game, go read this article. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna post it. It's a great article. It's a fantastic read. And one of the things that they talk about in this game theory article is that in 40K, you have 5 turns. There is not a thing called a good move in 40K, right? Exactly. There's also armies where there's a disconnect between an optimal list and the fantasy of playing the faction. Yeah, like the Tucker guy from Art of War, right? Coming on and doing his very smirky video that he did, basically going like, "Oh, you guys think our list was stupid? Well, guess what?" And I had my guard player watched it and he told me about it and he was like, "Yeah," and it was not how anybody wants to play card. And it's like, yeah, I could win EC with 6 units of tormentors and dropping them down on the board randomly and being like, maybe I'll win if I just have to do actions. But like, yeah, like there's the different, like something being good, in my opinion, means that the wide range of what they have in their army is playable, right? Like Emperor's Children was probably in a D to C tier in the end of 10th, right? Bumping up to B with the Defiler. But in 11th edition, I've already lost people because saying that. In 11th edition, we got way better because the core rules started affecting us better to the point where I could play what I thought was one of the most suboptimal detachments and get on a 100-point score because of just all the tools and how the tools work now and how much different it is to how it was, right? Those core rules made a major difference in the Emperor's Children. We're a lot better now. We're really good now. Like, I'm not gonna lie, we got a power up because of the core rules. And like that's something that I think that like is a really hard thing to talk about is the video gamification um of 40K is probably one of the most difficult things to get new players out of, right? Because when you're playing a video game, the video game asks for 100% perfect, right? Most people who play video games, right, are either trying to get the best score, even in like Total War, right? The best thing that you can do is have your entire army survive and you decimate the other opponent, right? 40K is not supposed to be that way. The game itself is not built like a video game. If you are playing and your entire army survives and your entire opponent's armies is decimated, something went wrong. Something went either wrong for them. They're either too new and they're still learning. You're too good and there's nothing that they could have done, or their army's in a bad spot, because that shouldn't be the case, right? Like, people getting crushed turn 1, turn 2, like that shouldn't be the case. Whether that's down to list building, player skill, right? Like if that's constantly happening, then either the player is needing help just learning the game, or there's something wrong with that army, right? Look at Imperial Agents. They shot up to an 80% win rate after 5 games because there's one guy who knows them super good. Or if they still beat you, then they're willing to sack pieces? What do you mean willing to sack pieces? Like just like lose things while playing? The like sacrifice pieces? I see what you mean now. Like exactly, like where it's like they're like this is where like the guard meta, right? Where it was like all of the infantry made sense of why they had to change it. Yeah, it's Warhammer. The universe sucks and everyone dies. Exactly. Sacrificing units for points. Like exactly. Like the whole thing is that there is should be one like when Death Guard was up to or not Death Guard, Death Watch was up to like a 60 something percent win rate, right? That wasn't good. They're not supposed to do that. They're not supposed to be a 60% win rate because that means that their rules are too strong, right? It means that everybody's fighting an uphill battle playing against them. And like nobody wants to do that. Like I personally hate playing games where like that's the reason why like when I played in the Dallas Open and my first matchup was against a guard player, I went, "Oh no. Oh no, that's not good." Cuz I played against guard most of the edition and that was most of my experience was, "Oh, I don't really have something that could wound you on anything besides a 5 or a 6 if you're bringing tanks," which they were because of the Defiler detachment. Luckily, Defiler being something in my army, I finally had something that could do something against them. But I had that nervous reaction from playing into that army back when that army was as strong as it was before a lot of the nerfs and going, man, there's nothing that I can do. There's not a single thing that I can do fighting wise that will benefit me um more right than like all of that. By the way, I haven't been paying attention, but I just got a notification from Warhammer on YouTube. Wait, Tacoma hadn't happened yet? So they released that document 2 weeks out and they hadn't even oh man, that's wild. Crazy. But yeah, exactly. Like it sucks. Like it sucks when the entire game is that power creep, right? That sated you're talking about, where like you're like, man, everything I do is wounding on 5s and 6s, and everything you're wounding on are 2s and 3s. This game is not fair right now. Like it's just not fair. Um, that's really interesting. Like that's something that I'm just like I really hope and that's what I like about this change and why I want more of these like different things being added in. Yeah, like upper middle tier. But that was also during the time in which EC was like a 30% win rate at best. Like because we went from being a like we were a 60% win rate for a month specifically because our Demon Prince was cheap. They increased that point cost. I also never played a 3-wing Demon Prince list back then. Just saying, I never did that. Um, but like it was the fact that they increased that and then well, the problem was is that we were a new army and not everybody had advance in charge. So people were very much playing the advance in charge rule wrong for EC. And that's when you have a lot of players in which you can go out and talk to a lot of people who played against EC in the early days and they felt like they were cheated. Probably because EC players were not disclosing how their rules work. I was the one who was getting my butt kicked during the Dallas Open because I told them specifically what to do and being like, you don't feed me units because I will get better. And then they didn't. And I went, oh crap, I shouldn't have told you that. I shouldn't have told you that. That was a mistake. Exactly. But like when I was playing that back after the whole waiting period of, oh my God, this is a brand new army and they're strong, went down to, oh, there's just normal infantry guys. Noise Marines are good, but they can't hurt anything that they're meant to, right? It was definitely a like, oh man, I'm going to shoot these Terminators. They should be shooting them on 2s. Oh, cool. You've made it -1 damage because you're Deathwing and you saved them all. All right, great. Like, that kind of going up the boulder in the hill, which made me have to learn how to play them without focusing on killing because you just couldn't kill certain things, right? You had to worry about, all right, I'm going to get my reroll hits of 1 and my reroll wounds of 1. That's all I'm worrying about, So this is why I'm excited about stuff like this, because I'm hoping that this will rule out that, right? Where we stop having this really big gap between something where it's like, um, something where it's like, oh, everybody's got this thing except for one faction. Now everybody can hopefully have something like that. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is 40K is an open info game. It's just especially when you're unless you're like because a lot of people are playing into tournaments and stuff like that. And like when you only have an hour and 35 minutes, you don't have time to look stuff up, right? Like you really don't have time. It's why you call a judge over. But even then, I've known a lot of people who don't know how to basically do that because until last year, they weren't actively judging. They were requiring you to call over and call for a ruling. And this year they actively had to start active judging to where they were looking at the tabletops because there were specifically instances of like, I mean, horrible cheating last, not this year, but the last year. Um, like I remember one of my buddies played against, and I tell this story a lot. If you've heard this, if you've been at the game store, you probably heard the story where my buddy played against not fully built knights. They weren't even fully built. They didn't have the torsos built, and they were I think the only thing they might have been were primed. But even the guy who was playing it, yeah, exactly, pocket hellbrute stuff. But he had the judge had come over to rule on something, saw that all of his stuff was not built, and they didn't rule on the fact that like this dude was changing weapons throughout the game and saying like, "Oh, this thing is a Melta. Oh wait, no, it has a chain gun because I'm shooting infantry." And like that's the big problem of like looking stuff up on Wahapedia and why I really enjoy the fact that they've changed that on the app to where you can immediately look up your opponent's army and why it makes sense for them to require the codexes to play in tournaments because of that specific thing of like, well, you're either then having to go, well, I don't believe you, dude, right? And this is a game based off trusting each other. A game can go really badly down if you're having to get that anger up, right, in order to fucking figure or to figure stuff out, you know. And it's tough. It's a tough like thing because again, unlike a video game, right, you don't have the code that's stopping that, right? You're sat in front of another person, and if they're doing something wrong, you're gonna have to confront them and say, no, you can't do that. Like I've played against guys in which I was literally filming the game and they would tell me stuff that they could do. And I'm like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Like, that's not how this works. Like you don't get to do that. Right. And I think that's where, like, me as a player, and this is why, like, the rules are so important, why that FAQ errata is so important, why that data sheet says, like, hey, if there's anything that's wrong in your app, or if there's anything that you think is coming or going to be rules changed, if it's not changed here, it's 940K. Specifically because of the fact that like it's the social contract. I can't talk. It's the social contract. If you guys have heard that philosophical belief, the social contract is all about the fact that, you know, it's an unspoken agreement between each other to not act uncivilized and a bunch of jerks, right? And that errata is our same thing. So that's why this whole stuff is so important. Why the FAQ not coming out at a time where we all can use it is so frustrating, is just because those rules bind us together. And that's where I'm hoping the rules will go. Man, I went off topic real fast. Blah, word vomit. But yeah, like rules are important. And I think that's the problem is that they've gotta change stuff to make it easier for people to get into armies and not be like, well, I got into guard because it's good, right? Or I got into Space Marines because they're the best, or I got into Emperor's Children because right now they're the best chaos faction in the game. I don't know about that, but they're really strong, right? And more of the I like playing Emperor's Children because they're pink boys who like drugs, right? Where it's like you could play Emperor's Children, have a fun rule. Yeah, we're very off top. That's true. This was supposed to be a painting one, but it's very off topic, which we'll talk about some paint stuff here since I have my new cabinet set up thanks to Emma. Thousand Suns has entered the chat. Exactly. Like things where it's like rules where you look at the Thousand Suns rules and you're like, how did somebody not look at this and say this was broken with the secatard attachment? Like the minute I read it, I went, so you're plus wanting to hit the thing that can't have its hit negated? What? Like, what? And then you're going to have a bunch of people jumping into Thousand Suns, playing Thousand Suns until they get nerfed, and they'll jump off that boat once that's done. But then the Thousand Sun player who just loves space wizards made out of dirt, right, is sitting there going, well, everybody who loved my faction jumped on and then off so fast that at this point, like, you know, but like, that's the thing. Is like I want to go play Thousand Suns at some point. I love the idea of having a magic phase. But if I jump over there now, there's a part of me that knows that it's because the rules are good, right? Where it's like, I wish that there was just more encouragement to say, like, buy the models because the models are cool, not just the rules. Because I feel like at a midpoint between in 10th edition, we were at a good spot with that, where it wasn't like everything was at a good point. Nothing was too crazy. And then we kind of been slipping. They had a new creative design director that got hired January before Emperor's Children came out. So that would have been 2 Januaries ago. And it does feel like there's been a big change to the creative directive of this. Yeah. Like, and that's the thing is we should play some Expo matches on TTS and have fun with those rules and play the fun ones. Excuse me. It's just the unfortunate thing about how GW reacts to stuff, right? Where GW, like, because exactly, like if the models aren't cool but the detachments are fun, why play it? Like the rules should be fun, not broken, right? Like I'm fine with the psychic being, oh, you can't modify their hit roll. Oh, that's cool. Okay, yeah, they're wizards. Okay, they should be good at that. Give Sekitar robot psychic and +1 to hit. Okay, now we're going too far, guys. Like that's too far. Why are we giving +1 to hit to something that doesn't need a +1 to hit? Like that's where like it's honestly the same reason why like I was a little bit upset about the fact that like Plague Marines gained infiltrators for that 1 DP detachment because you're like, so the big negative of playing Death Guard, if we're doing the rock, paper, scissors of who's better, right, is okay, Death Guard is slow. They're tanky, they can deep strike, and they're slow. They're slow, right? They don't have the ability to get on the board fast in the first 2 turns, especially because their rule is so like against that. And then they give them infiltrators, and you're like, okay, well, that's the one weakness that they had, and you're taking that weakness away. And that's where I feel like if they are going to do that, they should do the rock, paper, scissors of everything has its one weakness. EC is toughness. We're not tough. We're fast. We punch hard. We're strong. We kill stuff. But if you shoot us with a flashlight, like some of us should die, right? Like say the game that we play with infantry where you were just picking up tormentors. Like that's how it should be because EC is glass. Yeah, exactly. Like we are not supposed to, if they gave us a model and they were like, by the way, right, your flawless blades gain +3 toughness for an attachment. You'd be like, huh? That's the thing that makes them bad, right? The one thing that makes them that gives them a crutch where they're like, yeah, we're not tough. We have to play around that. That's fun. Give everybody something to play around, right? Like, yeah, Ogren messed them up, right? And it was a 120-point unit shooting into an 80-point unit. It was a good trade. It made sense. Everything worked right. Like, even with that, it was like, well, I couldn't get benefit of cover where I placed them. Like, even then, like, I was looking at the game going, yeah, I probably could have placed them somewhere else to keep them alive. But I also got what I wanted out of them, which was, and this will be coming out with the Flaws Blade video, hopefully coming out later today once I'm done editing, maybe Saturday. Right? Like, they were the bait because you put all of those guys onto that terrain plate And then I went, okay, I've got these guys who are sitting here. Demon Prince is going to run up. We're both going to charge you now because I've scouted up 6 inches. I've put the tormentors there in case you go forward onto them. Like there was it's the way that you got to play. But then when you give an entire faction the like, well, you can do whatever you want, right? Then now it's like, all right, right? Like Oath of Moment is a great example of that. Oath of Moment is sick. It's a sick rule. Rerolling is cool. The problem was when they were like, we need to find a way to get people to not play anything but generic Space Marines with these detachments. And instead of doing actual like things, yeah, exactly. But like that's the thing is like I also blocked off a lot of your infiltrators with that too. Yeah, exactly. Right? Like EC Terminators are not perfect. That's why they brought them down to 145, which is insane. But we just can't bring them in bricks of 10, so they're still weird. I'm still trying them. I'm gonna try and figure them out today. And I'll give you guys an update if I can figure out Terminators. Um, but like it's the specifics of the fact that once you remove like the weakness away from a unit or like a faction identity, then they've lost the faction identity whatsoever. You know, it'd be like the same thing if like elves were tough, right? They made them not as fast, but they're tough. You're like, elves aren't tough. That's not how they're supposed to play, right? Like it's the same thing as like Thousand Suns being like they hit on twos. You've created an unbeatable, like you've created something where they no longer have a weakness at times, right? Yeah, exactly. Like there's downsides, right? Like that's the thing is everything has to have a downside. Like flawless blades are great of going into things that are tougher than them, right? And as I've been working on a video, this is a perfect example. Like flawless blades are meant to go and kill stuff. Now, if you bring max flawless blades and expect to hold the objectives, I have bad news for you. It's not going to happen because they've got one OC apiece, and you're going to have on a full 200-point squad or 195 or whatever now. You're still going to only have 6 OC, and they can't hold anything. Like they can't hold anything because they're not meant to do that. That's not their job. Their job is to leave the objectives, maybe go kill something on the home and take that, right? Take your opponent's home objective. But it'd be like if they're like, all right, now they're OC3. You're like, why would you make the thing OC3? Now I have no reason to take these guys unless I want the infractors, unless I wanted the CP generation and the scouts, which is reasons to take them. But it's like it's a good like I usually bring one unit of flawless blades now specifically just to be like, this is my big target killer, right? But I bring 2 units of infractors because I need stuff that holds objectives and has 2 OC, even the one where I give them the enhancement and gives them 3 OC. And Saded has to watch me not understand how to do math and say that 5 guys have 30 OC because look, I'm not a math major, okay? I was a journalism major, all right? I'm good at writing and talking. I don't do the stats. But even me reading stats on some of the Warhammer stuff is crazy. But like, yeah, exactly. Like when you remove the downside of a faction, I think that honestly does more to the crippling of the faction identity than even losing some of the strengths. Because like it's again like what we were talking about. The game is not supposed to be this army wins 100% of the time. It should be 50-50. Dice roll should make it 50-50. Anybody should walk up to a table, see somebody like with the same amount of skill and go, "All right, this is going to be a fun game because we don't know who's going to win. It's going to come down to who plays better, right? Or who doesn't play worse." To go back to the game theory thing I was bringing up before I sidetracked myself with ADHD, I need to find. I'm going to try and Google that while I'm talking about it. But basically, the whole point of the article when it was talking about 40K was specifically talking about the fact that there is no optimal, there's no good moves in 40K whatsoever, right? You don't play 40K playing good, right? I don't think it's this one because this one was May 16th. Yeah, this might be this is kind of a good this is I think this guy might have taken some right this either is the actual article or this guy took some writing. Um, I think it by Mike Pestilence. Yeah, the timeline actually makes sense. Yeah, that actually makes sense. Exactly. Different ways to play, even if you have homogenized armies, to where like if I play Purge the Foe and I bring six Tormentor squads, I'm probably gonna lose because I can't kill stuff. But if I'm playing reconnaissance, I might win the game because I can start out in early places on the board and be able to get those scoring things done early. Right. It is hard to list Taylor for a tournament. And like that was something that I think is what they're trying to do a lot better, where it's like, you know what mission you're bringing to a tournament now, right? You know what mission you're bringing. And you can go and you can play anything that you are going to be up against, and you can build for that now to where you can say, like for me, I'm a killing player. I love playing killing stuff. I don't care about objectives. My goal at the end of the game is to kill your entire army. That's where I find fun in the game. I like killing stuff. I think it's fun, right? Not literally, just in the game. Um, but like for me, when I can play something like reconnaissance, right? It is interesting because I have to look at the game differently and go, okay, I don't want to make this charge. I want to score this, right? I don't want to make that charge. So that's something that like I think the dispositions is going to be really cool for, because it's going to force you out of the whole, well, one list is good, one army is good, one thing is good. It hopefully, if everybody finally gets access to every disposition, we can balance the game better. But I think that is a problem. And tabletop tactics actually brought this up when I was listening to them on the treadmill, is that they need to make sure that every army has a way to get the forced dispositions of everything. Like that is something they need to work on, because I don't think that is every army right now. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like I went into the Iron Cage and I played against one of my buddies, and he had a Nurgle list and it was Nurgle demons, and I was built for dealing with Space Marines and things like that, and I couldn't kill an entire Nurgle squad because they have 4 up invulns and I had 18 flawless blades. Right. To where even I was looking at that going like, oh yeah, yeah. But then we would play a mission where it was like, well, there's no way for me to score the primary on this mission either, because my list isn't built for this primary, right? And that I think is the frustrating thing, especially when you had armies like Drukhari, Emperor's Children, even World Eaters who needed a second like wave of stuff, right? Where they're like, well, I don't have a scoring unit like that. I don't have a cheap scoring unit that can do that. And then there would be Space Marines being like, what do you mean you don't have a cheap scoring unit? You don't have this cat? Like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I have 12 data sheets. They're like, oh, I've got 40. I'm like, there's a big difference to how you can do flavor if you have 40 data sheets over 12, right? Nice thing about EC is that there is really only one flavor, which is Emperor's Children, the right flavor. Um, but moving on from that into this changed my entire game. If this is the same article, this is the entire, yes, this is the article, because I remember this line. We're gonna have fun today. Well, the nerds among you are gonna have fun today. The people who aren't nerds are gonna be really bored by this article. But you came here to read long form content about 40K today. You are a nerd, whether you like it or not, and I think you'll have fun here. I'm gonna post this. I'm gonna send this to our Discord as well for the Mansfield chat. Where's Discord? Because that's an awesome article. I recommend everybody go read that article. That's not just the journalist in me. I really recommend everybody go read that article. It's awesome. We're gonna talk about some snippets of it today, but and this will probably be the last thing we go over before I go eat some lunch. Um, but I want to talk about this because it's really, really cool. This is the way of doing the math hammer to make the math hammer work for you, right? Because I'm not a big fan of math hammer. I don't think math hammer is a great way of playing because again, it's a dice game, right? Like even those things don't happen all the time. But this is a really good way of helping you understand, like, well, why am I not doing better, right? Where game theory optimal right is a concept that applies to card games like poker and things like that. And we're using it through a 40K lens because it's the exact same thing, right? Number one, one of the pillars is always assume that your opponent will make the best play to optimize your chance of winning, and that there is a correct choice, right? Um, like Zayd, you brought this up for things where it's like charge or do an action, right? And that's the question of it. This talks about the math of whatever the actual like percentage would be of, right. So like your charge is a lower percentage, but I don't want y'all to think about the percentages of the math, right? I want you to look at 5 VP versus 9 VP, right? See, this one says establish that locus, right, is the optimal choice. Space Marines named characters would be the second largest army by data sheets. And if you think you haven't complained too much about them, you haven't. True, absolutely true. And just you wait. They're probably going to get more. They're probably going to get more, right? Like this is the one where the math is a little bit okay because the thing is you're like you could get 5 VP for deep striking and charge, so it ends up being 3.6 VP. I'm not explaining this well because even I'm getting confused. Okay, basically, you have an 100% chance of getting 4 VP versus a 28% chance of 5, right? That's the basic one. 100% versus 28%, right? This is the thing that's helped me out so much. I don't look at 28% versus 72%. I don't care about that. I only look at 100% chance or anything with the chance of failure, right? Failure. I said failure weird. And the way that I took this article to go very simply down into it to help play is always do the thing that you know 100% is guaranteed, right? Always guaranteed to be better, right? You don't need to know the difference of whether it's 60% or 70%. Who gives it? Even if it's 20% or 70%, who gives a crap, right? Who really gives a crap? But is there 100% going to succeed on this VP or a chance that it could fail? Always do the thing that you're going to 100% know you can do, right? That is my thing when it talks about probability pi and all of this stuff. And when he's talking about, I played that perfectly and lost, blah, 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 blah. I played perfectly and still can't win, right? That's down to GW's problem. Of the 72%, the 28% is GW's problem, not yours, right? It's not your problem to worry about 72%. What it is your problem to worry about is the difference of, well, can I do this 100% of the time or can I do this 60% of the time? And if there's something that you can choose 100% of the time, you should probably choose the 100% of the time, right? So like right now, my question for my list for Saturday is the difference between bringing in Terminators, right? Which 100% give me the option to deep strike, right? When it comes into the game, I have that option 100%. I can deep strike if I need to, right? Or bringing in another unit of Noise Marines who will have ignores cover for sure if I want to do that, right? So I'm choosing between guns with ignores cover and deep strike, right? The deep strike could get me a 72% chance to score an action, right? While the Noise Marine gun might get me an 86% chance to kill something and gain me the points, right? What I'm doing there is I'm looking between which one of these 100% options is better, right? That's where I'm getting down into the numbers. I'm not going into, oh, well, they could do an action. They could do, no. What's the 100% thing that they can do? And how optimal is that for what I'm playing, right? Like for this one, I'm leaning towards the Noise Marine. That's why I'm going to test the Terminators today. Because I'm leaning towards the Noise Marines because I'm playing Purge the Foe. Purge the Foe, right? The Noise Marines have a better chance of using that 100% for what I'm trying to do, which is actually killing something, right? But the Terminators have a 100% chance of being able to take that home objective at the end of the game if my opponent is pushing. So I'm determining between two 100% options which one is going to come up more often. And that's where we get into the 62, 72%, where now that we know these two things are always guaranteed going to work for something in the game, which one is going to be more commonly used, right? Like, I've brought Demon Princes on foot before in my list to get that +1 AP. That's a 100% guaranteed thing that I can do and make sure happens every time. Is that if I charge, I get the 1 AP bonus. But I've also seen that that doesn't work as often because there's sometimes things with an inbone where I'm going, I didn't care about the AP, you know? Emma might hit me with elves and go, don't even tell me the AP, it doesn't matter. And we're playing Harlequins, I don't even care about AP. To where that 100% thing that is going to happen during the game isn't useful for the game, right? And so that's where my point comes when it comes to this and this article is it's not about like, oh, blah, blah, but it's about what's 100% and always debating to 100% at their probability, not, well, can this guarantee to do this or can this guarantee to do this, right? Always do the stuff that's guaranteed. That's what I like about this. I definitely recommend talking about them and doing it. But like this one, right? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You can 100% deep strike those Terminators in and do establish locus, right? And now this one is talking about all the other things that you could potentially do to score, but they're going, doesn't matter, do that. Because why do anything at a lower percentage than 100%? Why ever try that? Right? Unless you already can do all of your 100% things and you're like, cool, I got all my 100% stuff done. Now I can look at some of these other stuff and try and do that. But it's very much, this is a great article telling you, going like, why would you ever try and attempt something that you're not going to guarantee when there's something guaranteed right in front of you? Right? And there's sometimes the fun thing of playing and going like, I'm going to risk it. We're having fun, right? But this is the thing in which I'm saying like this is why there is an ability to make this game balanced for every almost every army is you give them these options throughout the book, right? These 100% options are important for each army. I just think how you do it to make it balanced and do all that. Again, I don't work for GW, so that's hard. I don't know how to do that. I'm not hired by GW to write game design. I only just know enough so that we can have an entertaining talk about it. If they do hire me, I swear to God, I'm gonna make it better for all of us. I promise. I promise. Um, let's look at some of the comments that I have been because I've been on a rant. The real problem is that I'm a gambler at heart and have lost games because I killed an important unit by failing Dark Pack. Yeah, but I mean, I'm gonna be real, my guy. That's just Dark Packs. Like I've done that too. I had one game that I was playing against Necrons, and I was gonna have this really thematic battle of a 3-wound Terminator Sorcerer going into a Doom Barge, and I was like, "Oh man, this is the last fight of the game. This is gonna be so cool. This is gonna be great. All right, Dark Packs. Okay, I failed. All right, they'll get lethals. All right, how many mortal wounds? 3. Okay, he killed himself. All right, like ooh, that's Dark Packs is definitely one of those army rules that like you gotta give them a healing stratagem. Like they've gotten them right. They got them through the Fabius Bio ones, and like they definitely were like, yeah, we have to give them healing because like I think I remember playing CSM and being like, "You've won the game, good sir," because I killed myself because I blew myself up with Dark Packs. And it's fun. I agree. Dark Packs is fun, but there's a reason why I play Emperor's Children mostly and not CSM Emperor's Children because I don't want to gamble all the time. I like doing 100% guarantees. Um, yeah, well, in all honesty, the reality is unless you're playing in a tournament, you should always fire plasma with hazardous. Unless it matters, unless the end of the game actually matters and you put money on it, always fire the hazardous. It's fun. Also, you don't have to put the mortal wound on the plasma guy anymore. So like for me, I'm definitely shooting plasmas from the tormentors with full hazardous because what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna worry about putting it on the freaking. I'm not gonna worry about putting mortal wounds on a bolter guy. In fact, I want that bolter guy dead. I want him gone already. Make the unit 70 points and remove a bolter guy for me. Don't even want the extra 2 wounds. No, I'm just kidding. I do. Don't let GW hear that. They're gonna mess up my codex. But like, that's the gambling is fun. But if we're talking about like if you're wanting to play and really get good into any army, this is a really good article to read and to kind of get your mindset, especially when coming into like I want to play for winning, right? To me, this allows me this mindset actually helps me separate the two games, right? Where like um I get into this mindset whenever I'm playing at like a major tournament. Like I wouldn't even like I'm playing an RTT tomorrow. I'm not going to have that same mentality. Tomorrow is like a testing grounds for me. And then August, when I'm at the Lone Star Open, that's going to be the one where I'm going to do this theory because that's when I really want to worry about worry about my mistakes and try and do better games. But like if I'm playing just casually, this is one where you're like, hey, you can just try and avoid mistakes, you know. But if that's the thing, you can't make good plays. Just have fun, right? When you're playing casual, just have fun. Like there's not anything that you're gonna do that's anything like good, right? You should have already been trying to do those things because again, there's no good way of playing 40k. There's just don't make mistakes. And this is when, like, if you make mistakes in a casual game, who cares? Right? We're having fun. Ah, it's a good way to learn. Ah, I forgot this ability. Dang it. Gotta remember that next time, you know? Exactly. Remember what you added that unit to the army to do and have that unit attempt the thing. Exactly. Like when it comes down to it, units really only come down to three major groups, right? Exactly. At the end of the day, we're just playing with toy soldiers. Like we just get to be kids again. And like I think that's something that is like when we talk about 40k and we get so serious about it, like the cool thing about it is it just shows how passionate we are. We care about this game so much that I've got 3 people willing to listen to me talk for an hour and a half about my thoughts about playing this game. Like we're so passionate about it and there's so much about life in general that passion is taken away from. I mean, look at our cars. Look at our interior design. It's gray. It's boring. It's lame. It's all optimized, right? Even 40k talks about optimization, but the whole point of it is that there's different mindsets of how to play, right? And GW's job, on the other hand, is to make it so that those armies are fun to be able to say, like, hey, I can turn off this part of my brain, right? That's telling me this in the back of my mind every single day. You can't make good plays, just avoid mistakes, right? I could turn that off if the rules that I'm playing are goofy, right? Like, oh man, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do this so that I can do this. And then when I do this, this is gonna happen. And like, how many times is there like an effect where you're like, I just want to do this? And you're like, do it. Oh, well, I technically didn't trigger the right thing. And your opponent looks at you and goes, I don't care. I'm up by 30 points. Just do it and have fun. Right. Like that's something that I'm very proud that I try and do. Like I played at the Iron Cage and there was a dude where he didn't get any of his charges off. And I gave him the opportunity to roll a charge with my dice. And he rolled a 12 on a Demon Prince charge. He rolled a 12 and I said, I'll give it to you. And I lost that game. And that was the first game of a tournament. And I went, I don't care. Doesn't matter. He had fun. We're having a good time. Like, who gives a crap? Like, it was funny, even though that guy was really, really frustrated at times and was really like trying to win best in faction for Emperor's Children because it was just me and him. He won a glass that had the logo on it, which I'm jealous of. I'm like, I need to buy one of those glasses. But I won wooden spoon because I just was like, I don't care at the end. I'm sucking. I'm having fun. And I got an entire box of miniatures basically paying for my ticket back. Like literally lost the entire tournament. Was last place out of everyone. And I still was one of the few to walk away with something. Like, again, if you're worrying about winning, like the winning is half the game. It's how your mentality is when you go into the game. And being a good opponent will always make you win every single game. Because there's definitely guys I played against where they cheated through their games. And because I went, I don't really care. I'll just tell everybody that you cheated and you didn't have towering and you used. There's a guy that knows exactly what I'm talking about. And if he's watching, yeah, you don't get to use your fate birds, your changers of ways or whatever they are in Zinch, and say that they're on a terrain plate and look over a wall, buddy. Come on. Like, but I didn't care and I didn't give a crap. And I went, all right, cool. When I see him again, if I play against him, I know he's just gonna cheat. Who cares? He's probably a 35-year-old man who can't play the game without cheating. Right? It is what it is, you know. How do we convince GW that their job is to make all the armies fun and not just to keep blowing up the Space Marine armies? In all honesty, I don't know because they should have figured that out by now. Personally, I honestly think that I think that say that you make a really good point with this, and I think it all ties back into, in all honesty, how they're approaching 11th edition, right? And in all honesty, I really hope this makes it to GW at some point because I have a lot of things to say to y'all. Uh, why are we taking our foot off the gas? The only thing that we're gonna really get is a month after this edition launched, and you were telling us all that price hikes need to happen, but your guys aren't doing much. Guys, you have enough time to write all this stuff and to write all these articles and put all this stuff, and you're not supporting 11th edition consistently. I get it. You have other game designs, but there's also other teams working on that. And it's the same reason why, you know, I talk about the rumors, you know, and why we talk about the rumors and why again, my whole point with the rumors is it's a thing that is a failing of GW because when you have these rumors like this, it's specifically because they've left us in this dust to now we have to speculate, right? Like we're going to get a little philosophical on this, but what is the greatest fear of humanity, right? We're getting real. What's the greatest fear of humanity? Exactly. In the lead up, I agree with the sentiment that 11th would be make or break. And it's unimpressive, right? The greatest fear of humanity is the unknown, right? That's the whole entire thing of the cosmology stuff, old ones, Cthulhu, everything like that, right? And one thing that they did a great job with last year is after the LVO reveal show, they put out, I think it was LVO, but they put out they put out the I can't remember what it is, the roadmap, right? They put up the roadmap and they said, hey, guys, this isn't exactly telling you when this is all going to come out, but this is the order right now that we have. And did that order change at times? Yes. It's freaky monsters grabbing those toes. I don't know. I don't know. EC's not worried about that, but I don't know if you'd call them humanity after that point. They like their toes grabbed. Um, exactly. Yeah, I don't want my toesies grabbed. Well, that's why if you put one leg underneath the blanket and one leg outside of the blanket, right? They can't see all of it and they just think it's a cut off part of your leg. So they're not gonna grab you because why would they not want fresh kill? They're post-human. They don't count. That's true. By the way, that is the sentiment that I've had ever since a child. That for some reason I always have to have one leg underneath the cover, and that's enough. I'm like, that's not logical at all. But humans aren't logical. Yeah, that face is honestly the proper reaction to my comment. Thank you. That's proper reaction. But we're all afraid of the unknown. That's what the fear of the dark is. That's what the thalamus obio or whatever it is, the fear of anything deep in the ocean, which I have because I don't know what's down there, right? And of course, people are going to start speculating about what's coming or saying oh, this thing has this because this, right? Because GW is sitting there going, hey, we promised that we're going to support you guys every single month. And now we're going to wait till the end of the month every single time, right? Exactly. Humans aren't logical, and Math Hammer works until dice spike. Like, it happens that way. And that's something in which GW has failed to do for a lot of everything that's going on, specifically when we're talking about the potential new army rule, when we're talking about or Space Marines going up to T5, right? 3 Runes of Peace. The biggest problem isn't the fact that, like, if that was the case, right? Like, okay, then what do we do? I mean, because that ended up happening with Death Guard, where that was a rumor, and DC, that was a rumor, and those all became true. But the problem wasn't that these rumors were coming out, because even back then, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's, again, that we're sitting here expecting that when they release this edition, that they were going to put all of their effort into supporting the edition since the beginning of it coming out, to the point where they've been talking about the rules for months, that they've had these rules that they could have fixed some of these problems that they've already had for months. And now, any single time that they've put out something saying that they're going to either talk about it or they're going to fix it, right? They don't, right? Like, even the second Q&A that they said this is specifically, if you have any questions about 11th edition rules, send them in, we'll talk about them, right? Well, people sent in obvious questions. I sent in questions that didn't get read, you know? Like, I sent in a question talking about the army rule for, oh no, I did that one for Auspex, and he didn't talk about that either. But, like, the army rule for Eldar technically doesn't work for Harlequins. They technically can't use it if we're going off keywords, because they don't have the Astroyani keyword, right? And, like, those are things that, like, at the very beginning of 11th edition, if this was a video game, those are patches that they need to make. Those are patches that they need to make sure that stuff works, and that we're not just going, well, it worked that way last edition, so why doesn't it work this way this edition? That's not our job. Like, that's not our job. That's not why we pay GW $300 to buy an Armageddon box, right? Like it's an Armageddon box. Like, it's a $300 box. And you're telling me that I buy a $300 box for incomplete rules. That's silly. That's the same issues people had when early access games were coming out and they were broken on release. Like, my whole thing is, I don't understand why there's not more outrage from some of these bigger creators, right? Where they're like, GW, get on this, right? Like, the reveal, like they did the Q&A. The Q&A, I think, kind of talked about healing, and they talked about the stuff that was coming for the orcs, and then they didn't really answer any other questions, right? GW keeps acting like this. I'm just going to try and convince more people to try bolt action, telling me it's fine, but not really their stuff. I feel like that's a dip towards me, but that's fine. But like exactly, like, that's the thing, is like, of course you are, because that's a game that works right now. And if they're saying, hey, well, we're not really interested in taking care of this as fast as we possibly could, to the point where they put out an FAQ 2 weeks before the FAQ was going to go into effect, to the point where they even say in the FAQ article, oh, this is so that we can get this out to you guys before we get it out to all of our other customers. I'm a customer. I read that document. Exactly. Like, they're charging premium prices for what feels like not a premium game. And it's really just the fact that, like, it's been a month. Like, the first fix is going to come after a full month. And we're talking about things where it's like, there were basic fixes that they needed to make, where it was like stuff that was just a carryover from last edition. Like, CP generation right now is unlimited. It's unlimited CP generation. Right now, that's the case. Right now, healing characters, we don't know exactly how that works, because that FAQ document isn't legal until maybe the 22nd, right? Like, I'm playing in an RTD tomorrow. Exactly. Rip the Band-Aid off. And, like, that's when you should have dropped that FAQ and said, hey, on the 22nd, We're going to confirm this stuff. This is the testing period of 2 weeks. Go play tournaments, go play games with this. If we find that this is breaking stuff, we're going to fix it on the 22nd. But they didn't do that. They said only our events are going to get to use this document, which is exactly what I was concerned about when the app came out with its own BCP scoring system and saying everything that you need to play 40K, right, is in our app. Now, are they going to not give us game updates unless you're playing in their tournaments? That sucks. Like, local tournaments are a major bread and butter for GW because it gets people to buy units and buy stuff. And if they don't have the ability to say like, oh, well, yeah, I can't run games everywhere because we just don't do that. Like, it's goofy. It's insanely silly. Like Lion and Gilliman getting mobile in this FAQ document, but like that now you gonna how are we gonna handle local tournaments now? Do you need to check every single local tournament to see if they're using the updated FAQ? Are there now we have opportunities, and not opportunities, we now have situations, that's a better word for it, where now we might have people submitting data because these are still BCP events, but they're submitting data with wrong rules. Did the tournament organizer agree to use the Tacoma document, or are they saying they're not going to use it? Does every player now need to come in with this document ready? Because technically this isn't officially in the app, so it's not officially playable, but our tournament's going to play with it. Our tournament's going to use it. Like, the whole point of that FAQ errata data sheet was to make sure that everything was universal, no matter what event you go to. And now they're sitting here going, well, depending on what event you go to, if you don't go to one of our events, you might not get to play with the right rules. Like, I'm not bringing Fulgrim tomorrow specifically because, like, Fulgrim doesn't have that mobile. Like, personally, I probably wouldn't use him. I'd probably use something else anyways until he goes down in points a little bit more. Because I'm just more comfortable using other stuff. But like, that's something in which I'm probably going to see people with Fulgrims there tomorrow. And if somebody uses that, it's going to come down to whether or not the tournament organizer is going to look at them and say, hey, everybody can do this or nobody can do this. Right? Like, it's the same reason of why, like, when these codexes come out, like, it's important that when they come, that they don't update until after they come out, right? In case that there are people who are not playing with the same rules, or there are people who are not as up to date as we are, where we're paying attention to the news every single day. We're looking at the updates almost every single day and seeing what's going on with it, right? Like, the people who play games once a year, like, I've gone to stores and talked to players where they were brand new, only using their codexes and the core rules, didn't even know about the FAQs and erratas, and they were using the 3-inch deep strike rules from back in the day. And you're like, oh, you're not supposed to do any of that, right? I remember one kid telling me about how he won a game, and I went, well, technically that's gone now. And he went, really? I was like, yeah, technically it's 6 inches. And he's like, but it didn't change. Where does it say that? And like, I had to show him on the document, said, hey, this supersedes anything else that it says, right? Like, even I've even seen some confusion with the Armageddon data sheets that came with the Armageddon box. They came out with an article specifically saying these data sheets are only for this game where you play this side of the box versus this side of the box. And I have people who have told me, they're like, no, Space Marines now have precision combat knives. And I'm like, no, they don't, because they also aren't forced to be in 10-mans, right? And like, that's something in which it's frustrating because new players want new rules, right? I understand the desire to want that new rule, but that's where it's GW's job to not give us rules and say we can't use them. Because what the literal crap? Like, one of the guys in my last group knew the rules very well. The problem was he knew the rules for like 3 editions really well and would get them mixed up. Yeah, exactly. They would get rules mixed up between editions. I played with somebody very early on in my time playing Warhammer, and this was the person who was a narrative player. There's actually like as a 3 month in guard player, I had to correct him on the guard rules. Yeah, exactly. Right. Where it's like there are some players where like they just mess stuff up. Or like I played with a player who had been playing long, like seventh edition, right? Same similar thing. But we would play things and he would tell us things that we couldn't do, right? That we would see in the rules and try and do and go, oh, I guess I can't do that. And then do that in a turn next. Like say, oh, I'm going to do that now because I can do this. And it got to the point where we don't play with that guy specifically because the rules would change so often playing against him that other members of that group would talk to me and be like, what does this rule mean? I'll be like, well, what did they say? Oh, they said this. I'm like, they didn't play it that way when they played with me. So this FAQ is so important because it's the thing that keeps everyone honest, right? Like, obviously, if people are going to have, pocket hell brutes, like things like that, like you can't trust humans to always be 100% honest. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, or at least on the same page. Exactly. Right. Like devastating wounds. Oh my God. For me, the rule that everybody was having a hard time was 10th edition fight first. Oh my God. It was so unnecessarily complicated. Just the way they described the rule. And like, that was such a problem to the point where everybody had to just tell everybody, this is how it works. This is how it works. We had to make YouTube videos about it. We had to do all this stuff and go, this is how it works. Don't mess us up. Like, we're all on the same page now. And what sucks is that exactly what you're saying, right? Is that you were on the same page. The minute 11th edition dropped, we were all off the same page. All off the same page because they didn't give us the page back, right? And then they sat here and they gave us the page back and they said, here's the page. All right. The page is, here's the FAQ. Here's this first FAQ. Oh, but it's only for Tacoma. It's only for Tacoma, right? That is frustrating. That's frustrating. Even to now where I'm looking over here and going, and to make sure that everybody has something to listen to. Right. Like that was a big deal. Like we're gonna get to see some of these Tacoma games, right? And there's gonna be things in here that are gonna be different to the way that you get to play at home. So you're gonna watch some of these guys, right? Shazo, that's a crazy awesome name. I love the Tau player's name. That's such a cool name. But like JT right over here is probably I don't they might not have it. But like there are certain things where it's like you're gonna have to just kind of go for it or have tournaments take these things and say we're using it too. Right. Which is probably going to be the case. But the problem isn't that we're not smart enough to do this to make it make sense. The problem is that this is GW's job, right? This is their job. This is the whole reason why they're the ones who write their own rules, is so that they can keep us all on the same page. And if we're having to kind of determine that ourselves, it's the Wild West again, which is fine because we can deal with that. But then, why would you then buy GW plastic? Because why would you then go to a GW event? And then at that point, like that then brings in the entire landslide of, again, why GW, as we've talked about on Monday, lost the public good, right? The public trust of, oh, well, we know that you're going to do something good for us and that we don't have to figure our own stuff out because we know you're going to support us in the best way that you possibly can, right? And unfortunately, they're doing the thing where they're taking a bit longer, right? Like, even like looking at some of these comments on here, right? Yeah, that's a good comment. That's a great comment. Said it is that is the biggest fear is that this might be them firing on all cylinders. And if this is them firing on all cylinders, then that's a problem because I'm gonna be real. There's a part of me that doesn't think that they're gearing up for something else. I feel like they've all gone on, like some of them have gone on vacation after dropping 11th edition, right? Saying like, oh, they'll be fine for a month. Don't worry, come back after holiday, whatever, right? Because it is summer, so it's a time for employees in the UK to go on holiday. Especially the fact that 11th edition dropped before all the World Cup stuff went super, super crazy, right? It all just started during that period of time so they could drop 11th edition and then go to the World Cup stuff. I don't blame them for doing that. Yeah, that's the thing is what else could they be building up for? I don't know. But it feels like they've abandoned 11th edition for a month, which makes me think they all went on vacation. Like, really, I just think they went on vacation, right? Which is, and this is again not talking about all GW employees, but this is talking about the 40K team in England, specifically the guys designing the rules and the miniatures and doing all of that. Or it's something where they're told by their bosses, right, that they can't put those rules out yet. So they sneakily had a way. Like, we could go through it all. Like, I've worked in a lot of businesses where like upper management has stopped, middle management has stopped upper management. It can get crazy. But like, even when the like Q&A wasn't super impactful of what was going on with 11th edition, right? To the point where even they were like, well, the FAQ is going to come out on the 22nd. You can wait. Even what's his name's like kind of attitude towards it, where he was kind of acting almost like not Adam, but the other dude, the guy with the glasses who's next to him. Even he is like, you guys can wait. It's coming out in 10 days, right? You guys can wait. And it very much felt like oh, come on, man. Like, this is your product. Telling us we can wait kind of sucks just a little bit. Just a little bit. Hopefully, it is just an unfortunate launch window. I do think that they had a really weird launch window too, because I mean, specifically, we look at what did they do? They released a brand new army set. They released battle marches are now coming out, and they've also released a new core set from Necromunda, all at the same time during 11th edition. That to me seems like a big whiff, specifically because like I'd be interested in getting into Necromunda. I'm interested in getting into Old World, but like I can't because I'm spending money on Armageddon, spending money on tournaments, spending money on other stuff. And especially when they're going to increase prices, which they're probably going to do again. Let's be completely real. It sucks when it's like, I just kind of want like this to like get figured out. It's like, even if you look at these chats right now, like they're live streaming their tournament and this layout is wrong to the point where if you look at this, right, these yellow comments from official Warhammer, it's them saying this like 12 times. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it. Like, we're working on it. Like, and it's like, dog, you've had this live stream. Like, it feels like it's the weirdly weird thing about them being a $1 billion company, but they live stream their stuff correctly. Like, Tactical Turtis goes across the country and does this. I love this. I don't know what this is. ADHD login. I think this is just it listening to me. This makes sense because I would probably fall asleep to that. I don't do ADHD lock-in. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? But like, I'll unmute it so maybe you guys can hear because I just don't have my speakers on, so I can't hear. But it is something in which like us as the players are going, so do you not care about us playing the game outside of GTs? And that's a as like for me, I do love playing in GTs, but those who know me know I'm a narrative player and I love playing in narratives. This would suck if you're going to say like, well, then all you narrative players like figure it out yourself. And to me, it's less about the actual like, oh, the rules, blah 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 blah. and more of just the attitude and the way that these things are coming out. Because yeah, it's an unfortunate launch window, and it also is a little bit kind of like, blah, you know, like it's a little bit kind of a way of handling things, in my opinion. Like I like even like it's so funny how you can see these people commenting, being like, "Oh wait, still wrong," like to where it's like, yeah, they're gonna bully GW obviously because if you guys are paying this much money for your army, for them to not put that much energy into it, then yeah, why not take the minis and go play Trench Crusade? You know, why not take the minis and go play? I mean, even one page rules, you can go play that instead. You know, like, or you could go and play 10th edition, a edition that's completed, and just go play 10th edition too. And that I think is the problem with the way that GW handles a lot of this stuff. Oh, it's paused. That's why it's not.
And get a fly back in one will say
Like,
mini-map updated, baby. Sorry, it took us a little bit longer than expected,
now,
but we did have to get all of the bits and pieces good to go.
We're close. We're closer.
Especially after
Yeah,
We're closer.
It's like
we're getting there.
we want to play this
but yeah,
game.
the hand of the icon up in the top right,
not
get extra OC and an invulnerable save while on their chosen objective.
game.
And so they're going to be up there holding down the expansion for as long as possible. And that's literally what he's going to be doing with them for as long as he can. Pretty much every single game is going to be absolutely brilliant.
Oh, we're already getting some shouts for folks wanting to see factions in the next rounds. If there are any factions you want to see in chat, make sure to throw it up there as a suggestion for some Emperor's Children. We can't guarantee we'll be able to get on the screen, but we will look for the things that y'all suggest first.
Because
a charge has been rolled and 11. Oh my God, JT, you have no chill. I love this about the new edition, guys. The opportunities to charge. Because he hit an 11,
one opponent,
he was able to send a single Reaver into the broadside, guys. That is so good. That is so cool. He ripped the 11 and ripped the 9 rather, and just decided, well, I can just go right, please, right?
Well, let's actually talk about this too, because the charge is different now. Charge is different than it used to be. You don't have to select a target. You have like the charge with this unit. You roll a couple of dice.
Yep.
In most cases.
Cool. I just remuted it. I thought they might have something interesting to say, but if it's being too much, I'll just mute it. Like that to me is like kind of the biggest problem is just I'm gonna do some Emperor's Children rooting. There we go. Perfect. Had to throw in the EC war cry real quick into their comment section. Cool. Can you guys hear me now? I muted the live stream, so you guys should be able to hear me better. Because there should be no audio coming through their live stream now. Thank you guys for letting me know that. I really appreciate that. I thought it might be fun to be able to kind of hear what they were talking about, but obviously they're louder than me. So, yeah, like, and we'll probably end this soon so that you guys can go and watch some of these videos watch some of these if you want. But like, yeah, to kind of like end my big rant that I've been talking about for a lot of this is just, it's really sucky when we are basically, when we want to play this game, we want to have fun, we want to do all this stuff, right? And they talk about, oh yeah, well we're trying to support every player, we're trying to support all of our customers, right? And it feels like being almost like a second class player at this point when you're not going and playing in these GTs. And like, to me, that's a really, really big hit to GW because not everybody wants to play this. Oh my God. They still haven't gotten the terrain correct yet, which is hilarious. Still not right. Still not the right layout. But like that to me is the most egregious part about all of this, is that idea of are they really just not wanting to support narrative players or people who play at home? And to me, that just doesn't feel good or right. right? It makes me feel whenever we're talking about, oh well, it's gonna come out and gonna get fixed at some point, right? Like, man, how long have you guys had? Like, by the time it feels weird that GW keeps making these large stumbles where all their competitors are circling them and sharpening their knives. Exactly. And also at the same point, too, it also feels weird because, like, I also just don't think that their competitors will beat them. Like, I don't think their competitors will beat them just because specifically GW has such an interesting universe, right? In which that's so unique in aesthetics that, like, I don't even like, even the other Warhammer killers have never been able to do that. Even Trench Crusade, which people talk about as the Warhammer killer, like, the only thing that will kill is Kill Team. Like, the only thing that will beat is Kill Team because it's not the same game. And, like, unfortunately for us, there's not a competitor that could really fight GW on that. And I think that's the thing that's hard, especially with the amount of video games, the amount of lore. Like, GW has the overall arcing of the fact that they've had 40 years, 40 years to do this stuff. And I think exactly mammoth ships versus small vessels. Like, exactly. They need to carve enough interest just to stay around. That's a good point. Yeah, I think Trench Crusade is going to become the main skirmish game. I think Kill Team's dead. I think everybody hates Kill Team. I think the only people who like Kill Team are Kill Team players, in all honesty. So that does make sense. Like, they don't need to die. They just need to have their own carved in all their own place. And you're right. That's true. It's true. You do beat my point on that one for sure. I think the unfortunate thing is that I don't even know if them circling enough to carve out is enough to get GW to get off their butts and to take a lot of this stuff seriously. I think a lot of it would have to be people not going and playing in these events anymore. And I think the problem is that that's not going to happen. Like, that's not going to happen. People are going to go to these. I'm going to go to these, like, you know, and you know what? That's a, you know what? I'll make that bet. That's a good bet. Trench Crusade and K47, if they're still being talked about by the end of 11th, they've won. Yeah, I agree. I'll say that. I agree with that. If they can't, if 11th can't figure this out, which, like, again, 11th is not a bad game, right? 11th edition rules are fun. I like 11th edition. I think 11th edition is shaping up to be probably one of the best editions of 40K so far, right? I think it's great. I just find the attitude that GW is having about it is a little weird, especially when it's not like, we're not asking for fixes to 11. We're asking for the quality of life changes that we expect that should have just transferred from 10th to 11th, right? Or had some abilities upgraded. But even half of this FAQ is just the things that are supposed to have this have it now. And you're like, so you couldn't have just released that? But now we're going to wait. And it's, again, just the, like, problem with those, in my opinion, is a lack of Xeno stuff. Yeah. Yep. I completely agree with that. Because in all honesty, like, what really was the big thing that, like, because I think a lot of the Xeno stuff was frame, where it's like all they did was give you frame, which, like, to me, I'm like, why did that even matter? Like, or the Drakari thing, then store the StarCraft. Oh yeah, I forgot about StarCraft. StarCraft sold so well at Adepticon that when I went over there at the end of the, like, weekend to go see if maybe they had some left, they were completely sold out. Like, they were like, StarCraft sold out at Adepticon, which was insane because they had, like, boxes, like walls of boxes. Like, I'm talking, like, there was, like, probably enough to make an entire little fort, right? So, like, even here, right? The FAQ addresses. Oh, okay. So this is good. They're still doing narratives at that. Zero Tool. Oh yeah, yeah, that dude was sick. Well, it makes sense that they all sold out. It means it's just the game's good. But like, moving off the game real quick, like this should have just been released. Like this. I don't understand why this is being locked behind a date. This is insane to me. It is only, see, you can use it at your own event if you want to, but it's only formally intended. That's the problem. Intended. Their intentions suck. Their intentions suck, right? Like I'm going to be completely real. I'm going to guess that this is what I'm going to be playing with tomorrow, right? The beast may become deeply wounded. I think in all honesty, it'll just frustrate people. And I think it'll just make, I think what will really happen is I don't think it will get, I don't think 10th, or I don't think 11th edition will lose popularity. I think they will lose sales because I think there's going to be way more people who are willing to go, I don't want to go to a GWGT. I'm going to 3D print all of these armies. And it's going to lose them a lot of money because of that. I think that's where the money loss is going to be. And when people don't want to support the GW models at all anymore, specifically because there's no goodwill when it comes to how they do the rules, right? Like they're not, if they're willing to do this in a weird way, like tournament orders may use it. But again, it's like you may use it. They can also say, no, you don't get to use this, which I think is kind of not a great idea. Because then you can have the opportunity for somebody who is in charge of a tournament to deny certain armies to have things that they should have. And that then messes up any of the info gathering that we see half of these YouTubers using, which is why, again, I will not make a tier list. If we do make a tier list, it's going to be for a meme and it's going to be hilarious and it's going to be a funny tier list, not an actually good tier list, right? Or like this one. Grenade stratagem. Say that we came up upon this yesterday, right? To quote Gaben. Yeah, exactly. Piracy is a customer service issue. That's actually, honestly, that's where I really love the argument now, since the if we're talking about video games, where the Save Video Games Act or whatever in California didn't pass, right? To where now you have people who are arguing and saying that, oh, they can't say that this is piracy for us downloading this game if we never owned it in the first place, right? Same with the rules with 40K. It's not piracy to get those models if we never got the rules for them in the first place. Ooh, you know what? Monday we're gonna do a tier list of the Emperor's Children heads. I have very, very specific feelings about the different EC heads. Yep. Say that you might have to get credited as a producer at some point on this because you're giving me great ideas. That's a really good idea. We're doing that. I'm actually writing an EC novel, and a lot of the heads actually deal with the various different model heads. So I have ones that I like more. I'm also coming up with a cult inside EC that I think will be interesting, but we'll talk about it on Monday. Like this one. Like, this affects Harlequin. Very much so, right? Like, same with this one. Say it. I mean, we came up across this technically in our last game. Where technically, yeah, your guys don't get to do this anymore because grenades don't exist. Stupid. Tank shock stratagem is the same as crushing impact. Like these are quality of life changes. These are not like updates of the game. This is stuff that should have been coming out with the beginning of 11th edition. Like this should have been all in 11th edition. This should have been in 11th edition already. This should have been in the, like, these are all things that should have already come out, right? The only single thing that is a new addition is Fulgrim gaining this mobile keyword. That's it. That's the only thing that's technically new, right? All the rest of this. Oh, the only other thing is new is also that you can use abilities in transports. Yeah. No, that's not it. Where is it? Not that one. FAQ. I don't know where it is. Where are you? I feel like I keep passing it. But basically, like these are just things that should have been clarified. That frustrates me. Like, and yeah, of course they're gonna say like, well, yeah, every tournament's gonna use this. Duh, every tournament's gonna use it. Why not? Why would they not use it? Like, that is again the thing that's frustrating. It's like what you were saying, Zhao Jin. Oh man, I just can't read things. I'm not good at pronouncing stuff. You know who I'm talking about. Like when you were saying like it should have just been an update, and if it was bad, remove it after 2 weeks, fix some stuff after 2 weeks. Like this whole thing of like, well, we're gonna test it somewhat is like it's just like it's so weird. Like, look, formal FAQ and errata require careful review, translation, publication, and integration with the 40K app update schedules to ensure they're appropriately delivered for all our customers. You delivered it to all your customers. You put it in an article. It's not like you only handed this out at Tacoma. Even here, you say you can use this document to answering attendees' questions. What do you mean in support of answering attendees' questions? Does that mean that Fulgrim getting mobile is a thing? Like, that's a question. Does he have the keyword or not? That's a question. Like, it's one of these things where it's that lawyer speak of just, dog, this means nothing. This is a whole bunch of crap, right? It's a whole bunch of crap. Like, because even then, they released this document and technically wasn't even legal until the 17th. So what if there were people who are going like, we're going to go blah, 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 right? As long as you maintain the online FAQ, let's just throw everything out. Exactly. Like, it's not like they are opposed to basically thinking that somebody has an ability until the day that they release it and then they change it. I mean, look at Yerrick. Right? Like look at his ability where his ability was all about getting that ability to do the whole shooting, reactive shooting. And then they nerfed it the day he dropped. And you're like, then why even tell us that he has it? Why even give us that information? Because at a certain point, like especially Yerrick, like this is kind of the second time they've hit y'all with fraudish stuff. Like where they've put out articles and information saying that something was going to work this way, and then without any warning, immediately not letting that happen. Like I remember that when the guard box came out with the codex and it was the Krieg box, they put out that article that said, hey, this is the amount of boxes that you would need to buy in order to make a full Krieg army at 2,000 points. And then people bought those boxes and then they decreased all the points at the very beginning, which people were kind of fine. It was fine if you were like, oh, I just want to play with cool stuff. Oh, that's cool. I get to bring eat that and that. But for people like my friend who specifically were buying those boxes and bought all that stuff so that they could make a Krieg army, straight up bought the exact amount that they were told by GW, said, hey, you can do this. They bought it. And then when that thing came out, they went, well, guess what? I can't build a full guard army now. I have to go back and buy more because of information that was given to me by GW that they knew that they were going to change, because obviously they know they're going to change that before a day in advance. And if they're not doing that, unless it's before a day in advance, that's a big problem because they shouldn't be releasing stuff, exactly. The bait and switch, they completely screwed people over buying engineers because they changed their ability day one. Day one, they were changing it. In my opinion, day one, let the thing fall as it lies, even if it doesn't work for a day. Give us a freaking day. Look at all these attendees, though. Look at all these people up in Washington have a great time. You know what? That's the greatest thing, though, is that even though that GW is doing something stupid, we can all still enjoy this game and have a good time. But it is the thing of like, okay, right? Like, It's understand, like, they doubled in price. They also changed the ability too later on, where I think it was like a 2d6 mortal wound, and now it's just a d6 or something like that. It's either d3 or d6 or something like that, right? They nerfed it hard, right? And they could do that with guard because they went, well, we can nerf this stuff because they've always got other stuff, right? It's like, I'm sure they probably wanted to nerf the Winged Demon Prince in EC to the point where they're just nerfing it every single time that we have a point change. They're either nerfing it or dropping it down by 5 to say that they've done something. When, like, the whole thing is that they probably, if we had more data sheets, they probably would have changed the ability, you know? Like, it's one of those things in which it's why I always call for GW to be more transparent, right? They need more transparency. This whole thing of secrecy and, oh, it's going to be exciting when this thing gets announced, is not exciting anymore. These things get leaked always, constantly. They get leaked. We find out about them early. Somebody gets the book early, something like that, and then the excitement of something randomly showing up. Like, the only thing that I think has ever come out of that being that excited was Exodite showing up. But also, there was a part of us that also then looked at it and said, yeah, we all knew Exodites was coming because Valrak's been talking about it, right? And, like, Valrak, great YouTuber for that, but also he represents a major problem for GW, which is, if he's going to know this information this early on, then GW needs to work on their marketing strategy and either seal up whoever that mole is, because he's obviously getting information from GW, or literally give us more transparency. Be more open about what your coming months is going to look like. Like, in all honesty, 11th edition should have dropped, and at the first of this month or at the Q&A or whatever, they should have given us a roadmap of the first 4 codexes. They should have given us the first 4. We knew it was Orcs and Space Marines, and then we should know the next 2, right? Like, we should know what's going on. Like, them not telling us what's going on was fun at one point in time. But now, this is something we need. Orler Games is a 3-month pre-order board. I agree with you, agreeing with me, agreeing with you. So we'll have a random drop and then a couple months to get excited about. Exactly. Like a 3-month in advance what's coming out. Because my opinion of that, like, back when I was wanting to buy other boxes and try Kill Team, I bought the Tyrannid and Mechanicus Kill Team because I was like, man, those are cool. That seems really fun. The Tyrannid terrain is really interesting. And I bought it, and then a week later, they announced the Death Watch one. And I went, I would have bought that one instead. I'm not buying 2 of them. That's a lot of money. But, man, I really wish that they would have done that. Exactly. They drop things, and then there's no time for the hype to build. They don't build hype anymore. Like, even in, like, the turnaround for 11th edition, like, how many things came out where they were like, boom, we announced it, it came out next week, right? Like, those reveal shows are supposed to get you excited about the next 6 months. And the problem is that half of these reveal shows, they feel like they're running behind, where it's like everything that we got for Adepticon, it understands that they're going to announce Adepticon being, 11th edition, but it should have been 11th edition plus, right? It should have been 11th edition, showing that Orcs and Space Marines were the first 2 codex, and then the first other 2 codexes that were going to come at the beginning of the game, because then you get hyped for what's coming, right? Like there's rumors that there's a Custodes codex coming next, which would make sense because that would hit the Imperium brick, right? Space Marines, Xenos, Imperium, and then, like, even Tabletop Tactics mentioned this. How sick would it be if they drop a Demons Codex as the first Chaos Codex? Every Demon player would be excited. Me, as somebody who likes demons, I would be interested in seeing, like, okay, how are demons going to work in their own book? Means that they're probably going to stick around the other books in a way, but the cool faction, like, building makes a lot more sense, right? But, like, then we would at least know and be excited. Or, like, if you're playing Guard, right? If you know your codex isn't coming out until December, or it's like, at least your codex isn't coming out this year, you then can say, well, okay, then I'm not going to worry about 11th edition right now until they do some changes, until they do some codex drops, right? And, like, that's when you could say, okay, I don't want to play Guard. I'm going to go get into Space Marines for 6 months if you want to, right? It feels like there's no long-term plan, and it feels like a bunch of rug pulls. I am only willing to accept so many fell for it again awards. Exactly. That's where it feels like. It feels like they've been using the same marketing strategy for the last 5 to 10 years. And the problem is that marketing strategy doesn't work, right? The marketing doesn't work anymore, right? It just doesn't work. Because for me, like, they got me when EC came out, right? When EC was coming out, like, I'm gonna be real. I was probably giving their traffic so much freaking like their site so much traffic during that period of time, because when they dropped, in October and this live stream, having the Emperor's Children logo flashed across the screen, those who were watching with me saw me freaking scream and jump out of my chair. I was so excited, right? And then that happened in October. Then 2 months later, they showed off the range, right? 3-4 months later, they gave us the army. So from the announcement of the army to the actual release of it was 6 months, but they had 2 straight up announcements for them. One was the, hey, things are exciting. Oh, and then they had 4 announcements for them, because in December we got Fulgrim for Christmas, right? Like, and that was one that nobody, like, even to the point where Valrek was like, I don't think they're going to show off Fulgrim for Christmas. I think they're going to show off the box. And then they showed off Fulgrim and everybody lost it. Like, EC in the last year was the last successful, like, way that they've done this. Because EC they released it so well to the point where it sold out so fast. Like, I had to struggle to get everything, to the point where I didn't get 3 Lord Cacophonus on launch, and I couldn't get a 3rd Lord Cacophonus. Like, I know some of you probably are like, Nick, not being able to get the models, that's insane. He normally gets everything, and we can't get it. Like, that was back when I was having to learn the tactics that got me my 2 defilers, right? Because it was like, you couldn't get that stuff. Like, I got lucky getting that, like, exclusive EC Codex for $250, which was a lot of money. I'm not doing that again. But, like, they made the relief so special that, like, you couldn't, you had to go look at it every single time when it was coming out. Like, you had to go check. And the problem is that whoever led that is obviously no longer with GW. They're no longer doing this side of the business, because that is just gone now. That's just gone. Yeah, exactly. The like, the fact that they do pre-orders in this FOMO is honestly an insane strategy for them, as it doesn't really help their business whatsoever. Like, I have a friend who manages a store for GW, and, like, that's something that, like, when he has his sales numbers, that he doesn't get affected by web store purchases. It all has to go through his kiosk. So, like, when people are having to go to different stores, it's obviously got to affect his business. It's obviously got to affect his numbers, because if it sells out on the GW website, but it's because there's scalpers online who have bought them all and now they're selling them, like, that hurts the stores. Like, made to order makes sense, because at least you're like, well, then everybody who's going to buy it from us can do it made to order, while all the stores who are not a GW store, right? They're just like a vendor. Like all of those guys should get limited stock, while anybody who orders at a GW store should be able to get it made to order, right? I know that the made to order, like there's the whole thing of, well, it takes 180 days. There's got to be a way of doing it specifically, right? Making that pre-order happen 180 days before the actual data sheet releases. Oh, this is an interesting breakdown. That's cool. I do find it interesting that JT is playing Drukhari. I don't think he normally plays Drukhari that I know of. But like, that's what I mean when it's like again, I don't work for GW. I don't work in this business. I don't know what the fix is. What I do know is I do understand the problems and where we're feeling them, right? Like the problems that we're feeling can be fixed. It feels like it's just not wanting to put the effort into it. It's kind of like how we always were talking about new old world post. It's kind of how like we were always talking about how like the new like the way that they did the codexes seemed like it was a great idea. Oh man, we don't have to get an index again. Everything doesn't have to change. But it feels like it was kind of a negative thing that we got all of our codexes to be the same. Because now instead of doing the work, right, to do a lot of those things, now unfortunately, like we're having to sit there and wait for them to get that work done. And we're like, guys, 11th edition is live. You guys are doing opens with different rules specifically because of that. Like, that's not great. That's not a great way to do things or play. Just my opinion. But I think especially if they're going to do another price hike, I think the problem is that like you were saying, the quality is not hitting the tier of what we're paying, right? Like I would still say that oh, sorry, having just bubbles in my throat, can't talk. I would still say that like 11th edition is probably the best version of the game so far. We're still getting it's still a great game. We're still having a lot of fun. I just think that it's the attitude behind a lot of this where we're like, guys, come on, we all care. We're all trying, who knows? I am just excited to get more games playing and to really just kind of see where that stuff goes and where this stuff comes to being, because I could just talk about this forever, because the game's gonna be fun. The game's gonna be cool, but there's things like made to order, right? That they could figure this out. Being more transparent could help them figure this out to where you and I, as the average player, aren't feeling like the rug's getting pulled under us every time we spend money. Because again, this game doesn't work unless people spend money, and if people stop spending money, that's not good for GW. Like, I don't think there'll ever be a time in which people don't buy Warhammer. But I do think that there is something to be said about how they've started 11th edition, the amount of effort they've put into 11th edition so far, and their attitude behind it. Because we've seen them put a lot more passion into projects before, especially like campaign books and stuff like that. And to me, it does feel like there's either something coming or there's just where, we might just be in that weird growing pain area, or it might just be something where, again, they all went on vacation, and after this month, we might see the attitude change. And I hope it does. I really hope it does. GW has a way of coming back from things a lot of the time, every other month or so. So, yeah, I think the problem that we're seeing, particularly in our group, is that for large sections, the honeymoon phase is ending, and there isn't much effort being done to keep them around. Perfect. That is a perfect way of describing it. Couldn't say it better myself. I couldn't. I was having trouble. I completely agree with that. It's that the honeymoon is coming to an end, And like, even now, we don't have these terrain pieces that they have, right? Like, I want that pre-painted terrain. I want it now. Like, I want it already. I want the base plates to be readily available. I want to be able to play these games and make sure that these things work right. You know, feels like they might be trying to cycle people through. Thank you for buying 3K points worth of stuff. Now leave that we can bring in a new player who needs to buy their 3K points. Not actually also a bad idea either. That's actually not a really bad theory. I do think that GW as a company, I think you have two parts of GW. I think you have the people who are making the rules, and you've got the people who are the upper management corporate heads of all of this. And I think that it could be a problem with the team, or it could be a problem with the upper management. And I think your comment of trying to cycle people through, I think if that is a problem, that's probably that upper management problem, which is also the same problem that they had with the FOMO stuff, right? Because that was one of their CEO's like mission goals, was to create FOMO through all of those ways that they would do that, right? So it would make sense and go with their own mission statements that they've already had of creating that FOMO and creating that desire to be a part of the moment, right? The oath of moment, if you will. So I could also see that being a major problem with that honeymoon phase, as well as it could be that it honestly, and this is whoever's shaking the camera on the live, by the way, they need to stop. That's so funny. Somebody's vibrating that camera. They had to cut real hard. That's really funny. I told the stream that since there was an earthquake on the stream, that they need to make everybody take mortal wounds from the earthquake from the camera. So that was funny. But yeah, I think that a lot of the problem, right, with a lot of that stuff is the fact that, again, we don't know, right? We don't know, you know. And I think that's where GW kind of needs to help us out at some point with their transparency, because I think the more transparent they will be, the less of the worry of the coming months will be. Because, like, why would you be worried if you know that something's coming in 6 months, right? Exactly. Make the hazardous roll on the earthquake. But man, guys, we have done a 2.5 hour stream. I'm proud of y'all for sticking through it and listening to me while I'm ranting. But I got to get started on my Warhammer game that I'm going to play today, or else I'm not going to get any practice. Maybe I'll show up and live stream some of that game through a battle report. Just don't judge me if I'm playing badly. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for hanging along and commenting. I don't think that the game's not dead, right? But you know, I think we're going to be in an interesting spot in the next 6 months, and I think GW has an opportunity to turn it around. I am just very hoping that we see that. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. We're going to go live again on Monday, starting at 10:30. I think I'm going to start at 10:30. Gives me a little bit extra time and allows us to go a little bit over in time. So I'm going to start these streams at 10:30 on Mondays and Fridays. So if you guys want to join along, I'm going to figure out how to get that all set up to my Instagrams and my socials so that we can watch along there as well. But right now, you can always come back here at 10:30 on Monday and Friday, and I will be there. Sick. That'll be super fun. I'm gonna try and see if I can figure out some filming for that. I might be able to just kind of film some, like, get some screenshots, take some like pictures of the game, and then I might be able to jump on for a stream afterwards and be able to talk about those games. But I will make sure to make posts on the social and in our Discord about that. I will also probably be making a work in progress Discord over the weekend and be inviting people for the actual YouTube itself. Because again, work in progress is my intention with this is to make this a big channel, right? It's not just me. Emma's also starting her own work in progress Instagram to fall under this umbrella. And what I would love to see is I'd love to see people who would want to come and be a part of videos, who want to talk about their ideas on streams and stuff like that, talking about maybe getting a podcast started so that we can have people talk about it, but also just a dedicated server so that, like, if anybody wants to come and watch the streams, it's an easy place to find all that information and scheduling and things like that, hosting games, hosting maybe even tournaments in the future. So if you guys are interested in that, I'm gonna work on that this weekend, work on some of that stuff. But I'll have all that posted on my socials, and I'll post that on Discord and stuff in case anybody is interested about that. There will be bolt action. That is the cool thing about work in progress. Is work in progress, I'm mostly 40K, but it doesn't mean it has to just be 40K. We can talk about all sorts of stuff. Bolt action, K47 I'm willing to play. We'll play some Trench Crusade over there as well. So there's plenty of things to talk about for everybody. And that's the biggest thing is I want this channel to grow, and I want this also to be a channel that is by the community for the community. So that is going to be one of the biggest things, is that I want you guys to get involved with it if you guys would like to. So I'm going to make that Discord over the weekend so that we can all get involved and do these live battle reports, maybe even offering up some coaching sessions and stuff from me where I can teach what I've known about EC or just other parts of the game. Whether that's interesting enough, we'll find out. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps me out a lot, and it also makes me feel good in my little tummy. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm definitely painting up some K47 models. That's not a question. Those models are so sick. And also, I'm gonna actually be trying to do some real painting and try and maybe even paint some Golden Demon stuff this year. So we might even do some painting competitions on that Discord as well. Maybe do some giveaways. Maybe do some me painting a model and giving it to somebody, or just giving people stuff. Right? There's always options. Free stuff is always good stuff. But yeah, just keep your eyes on it. We'll have more news going on Monday. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I always love hanging out with you guys. So I cannot wait to see y'all on Monday. Let me know if you guys have any questions over any stuff. Hit them in the comments. Shoot me up. Hit me up on Instagram. Don't shoot me up. That's not good. I would like to keep all my blood inside me. But thank you guys again. It's so good hanging out. And I will see y'all on Monday. Unless we do one in the afternoon. Expect that one potentially around 4 to 5 in the afternoon. Thanks, guys. And have a great day.